Today we're getting started on the laundry closet. Gonna be fun.
The biggest thing that drove me crazy about the laundry room, or as I like to call it, a laundry closet, since it's not exactly a room, but the fact that there is only one dinky little wire shelf that I think we can all agree is the worst type of shelving and such a builder grade special. But it's also up so high that my 5'1" self needs a step stool just to reach anything. So I started, as most projects start, by cleaning out the space. The bars from that wire shelf also left these massive holes. The anchors were on the outside of the bar. You'll see that in a second here, and left these huge holes in the wall. Please don't put these shelves in your home. They are not worth it.
Even these closet-made system nails that were holding up that shelf, it is pulling out the entire anchor. Why? Why is it doing that? And then, look at these giant holes it's leaving in the wall. That's insane.
Needless to say, I had to sand and fill all of these holes in before moving on. So my vision for the laundry closet was to, of course, add in some cabinetry for more storage than just what that one shelf provided. I didn't even realize I'd saved the same pin multiple times. Apparently I knew what I wanted in this space. But I loved the simple cabinets with a small shelf and vertical line details of that slat wall. This specific slat wall wasn't exactly what I was picturing. I was thinking something more along the lines of a striped wallpaper, and I wanted it to have a vintage or worn look. I really loved this grass cloth textured brown stripe wallpaper from Bell & Nook, but the cost of wallpaper is just so expensive. The last time I did wallpaper, I regretted my decision, so I didn't want to spend the money this time on a room that no one else sees. Well, when I was shopping for the cabinet lumber at Lowe's, I wandered down the wallpaper aisle and I spotted these textured paintable wallpaper options from Allen & Roth. And they have several different texture varieties, including one with stripes, but I still wanted that grass cloth look mixed with the stripe. So I picked up 2 rolls of this for less than $50.
Well, it is the next day, and I'm actually really happy with how far I got yesterday, considering I didn't even get started until about 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So we got all of the cabinet boxes built, I got all of the holes patched, got everything taken out of here, cleared out. Now we have a fresh blank slate to work with. In my favorite inspiration image for this laundry closet, I had come across this vintage looking wallpaper that was a grass cloth with a sponged or worn looking stripe down it. I just love the simplicity. I felt very vintage and very much my style and what I'm looking for in this simple space. I don't want it to be too busy in here because it is a small area. So I thought going with some sort of stripe was a really great idea. Unfortunately, that was going to cost hundreds of dollars for that specific wallpaper because of that grass cloth look. You could get it without the grass cloth, but it wasn't really the same vibe that I was going for. So I did find this paintable wallpaper at Lowe's. It has this texture to it that to me felt kind of like that grass cloth I was going for. And since this is paintable, I thought I can make my own stripe stencil with my Cricut, and then we can just sponge it on to get that worn look. So I'm gonna do a couple of test sample pieces, see how it comes out, see if we love it, and then we can hang it up on the wall and save a lot of money.
For the samples, I'd cut down a strip of the wallpaper and I used painter's tape to create stripes. This was more to test the paint color and the technique that I wanted to use. So I picked up 3 rich brown paint options in brown velvet, cabinet plank, and Turkish coffee. First, I applied the paint using a typical sponge dabbing motion, but the paint wasn't getting down into the grooves of the texture as much as I had wanted it to, and it was looking kind of sheer. So then I realized if I wipe the paint on and then go back over it dabbing randomly, it gave me that worn look that I was trying to achieve. I was testing a few stripe options here and I landed on the third one from the right, and I like the color brown velvet best. It gave that rich but deep color that I wanted. For the stencil, I used this blank stencil sheet that I've had in my stash for years from Walmart. It's like a very thin sheet of plastic that you can either run through a Cricut machine or you can cut it with a utility knife. I actually didn't have my setting deep enough on the Cricut, and I had to cut through it all the way by hand anyways.
I have my little sample swatches here and decided I didn't really love how it looked on that stark white background. I was debating if I wanted to actually paint the wallpaper because it is paintable or just leave it this white tone. So I did another sample with the painted wallpaper using my stencil this time to see how difficult or how easy this was going to be. And I feel like it really is giving me that vintage look and that kind of like worn, not perfect look that I was going for. So I'm gonna get started now on adding the stripes.
I had filmed this video a little bit out of order. In that last clip, the wallpaper was already up and painted because I was being so indecisive on the paint and how I was going to apply the stripes. But this wallpaper was pretty easy to use. There's not really a pattern to it, so I didn't need to worry about making sure that things lined up in the right spots. I did find that it was easier to manipulate by spraying it down with water. This was actually pre-pasted wallpaper, so technically all you need to use is water, but I had a whole bucket of wallpaper paste from my bathroom makeover, and I decided to use that to make sure that it sticks well. I painted the wallpaper Canvas Tan by Sherwin-Williams. This is the same color as my downstairs hallway, so it blends right in. I knew I was adding cabinets to the back wall, so at first I had left the wall blank, no wallpaper or anything, but eventually I do add the same wallpaper treatment so it wraps all the way around the whole space. Finally, we're at the fun part of adding the vintage style stripe to the wallpaper. I showed you that I cut out 2 stripes on the template, and this is to keep all of the spacing uniform.
It's looking a little bit wonky right now. There are definitely some areas that need to be touched up where I kind of got outside of the stencil, but I'm just going to go in next with a detail brush, touch all of that up. But other than that, it looks exactly how I wanted it to, a worn, faded stripe.
After the cabinets got hung up, I decided I was going to add stripes around the back as well.
This is what she ain't showing you. The joys of how bad her back hurts. She doesn't want to undo all this. No room back here while she does this. And why won't you do it across the top?
Because the paint dries and then you can see the lines when I try to go down to the next section. Okay. I need to do it while it's all wet.
But yes, this is what she does behind the scenes.
All right, let's go back in time now to building the cabinets.
So there's a couple different options here at Home Depot for the wood that I'm looking for the 3/4 inch plywood. They're completely out of the oak, which would have been about $90 a sheet. They do have 3/4 inch maple, which is, I don't know if you can see, $85 a sheet. Or the other option would be this blonde poplar hardwood, which I don't really love. There's like really a grain to it that I don't like, but that one's $65. Definitely most affordable option, but I think I'm gonna go with the maple since they don't have the oak.
I had the guys at Home Depot cut the 4x8 sheets down for me so that they would fit into my SUV. And the Home Depot saw, unfortunately, it doesn't give the cleanest cut, but if that is your only way to cut large sheets like this, it will work. Just sand down those rough edges. I knew I would be cutting them down further, and I used my track saw to get my exact measurements. You can see how much cleaner this cut looks compared to the big box store. I researched several ways to build these cabinet boxes, and for my skill level and the tools that I own, pocket holes was the best option. The cabinet box part itself is really easy to build. The doors were a little bit more involved, but I was able to get all of the wood cut down, pocket holed, and put together in just a few hours.
boxes complete in one day. I'm so proud of myself.
I made 2 shelves for each cabinet box, so 4 shelves in total, and since they are plywood, the edges are not the best looking, so to fix this, you can iron on edge banding to make them look finished and like a solid piece of wood. To hang these cabinets on the wall, I decided to use a French cleat. This ensures that the cabinet can hold a lot of weight while also ensuring you're screwing them into the wall studs and not just drywall. A French cleat is super easy to make. You just take a piece of wood the same length as the cabinet box and cut it in half using a 45-degree angle. One piece will then go on the top cabinet box back with the long angle facing down, and the other piece goes on the wall with the long angle facing up. I made sure to screw this board into as many studs as possible to give me confidence that these aren't going anywhere and can support the weight that I know I'll be putting inside. I didn't show it, but I also added a board to the bottom of the cabinets. That way they sit flush against the wall, but I had the boys help get these lifted into place. Just the boxes themselves are pretty heavy, and I knew I would never be able to help lift them over my head. Next, I built the face frames for the cabinet boxes using 1x2 poplar wood and pocket holes. Like Josh said, I have to keep maneuvering in awkward positions during this entire project. It took me 4 months to complete this makeover, so I wasn't going to disconnect and reconnect my washer every weekend while working on it. It was also really difficult to record such a small space with my camera set up in a narrow hallway, but I made it work. The original light fixture in here was a typical boob light that you find in all builder grade homes, and it wasn't going to work now with the cabinet doors to open and close. At this point, I have changed several light fixtures in my home, updating a lot of the boob lights or outdated fixtures to these canless downlights. In an area where you just need light to see but don't need it to be aesthetic and pretty, these are a great option. I've added them to my hallways and my kitchen. Next, I moved on to making the cabinet doors, and I'm using 1x3 poplar and creating a shaker style door. This is a pretty common style these days. I routed one edge of each wood piece for the plywood center to sit in and be flush with the back of the door. This was the first time that I've ever used a router, and it was kind of terrifying, to be honest. For 2 of the doors, I had put them together with dowels, but that was honestly such a pain to do, and they really aren't holding weight. So the second set, I just wood glued them together, and once that back piece is on, these are super sturdy. This part was absolutely not necessary, but I wanted the backs to look solid, so I filled all the little cracks where the wood meets with wood filler, and also since the router leaves a small rounded gap at the corners, I wanted to fill that in. Don't ask me why I'm using a popsicle stick to do this though, I was apparently being lazy. You could leave the doors just like this and hang them up, but I wanted to add a little bit more detail, mostly because my kitchen cabinets have a little detail like this, and I want my home to flow and be cohesive. Now we can paint. I went back and forth so many times on if I wanted to paint the cabinets or stain them in a deep brown, and I'm happy that I painted them the lighter color because this is such a small space. I think a dark wood would have made it look even smaller. So to hang the cabinets, I bought this Craig concealed hinge jig, which made getting the hinges in super easy, but unfortunately I couldn't find the footage of actually using it. But this bit just attaches to your drill and then locks into this flat piece to create a perfect circle hole every time. It also has holes to pre-drill where the screws are gonna go, well worth the money. I was feeling so proud of myself getting this entire cabinet built from scratch. This was the moment it was all coming together. Until I hung the doors, And they were a smidge too big. Oh my god, I was so close to getting this room finished, and this was so deflating. I was able to cut a sliver off of each door, and you honestly can't even tell. You can see more that one of the doors is actually slightly twisted and the top sticks out a bit, but this is exactly why I chose my first cabinet build to be in a place that really only people living in my home are going to see. For the knobs, I went with this small ball style that looks like a hand-forged brass, and they are the perfect accent against the stripe walls. And the last element I wanted to add is an open shelf above the washer and dryer. I used poplar again for the shelf, and I glued two 1x6 boards together because the store didn't have a 12-inch board. Somehow the sun lightened the wood while the glue was drying and left like a tan line on the surface where the clamps were. I have never seen this happen before, and I was so confused. Sanding didn't even remove the line. It was so strange. But I wanted the shelf to look a little bit more substantial than just a 1x, so I picked up this decorative trim to add to the front edge for more detail. My husband showed me this little trick. If you ever have pin nails that are sticking out a little bit, you can use this spring-looking thing. It's called a nail set punch. You put one end on the nail head depending on how big the nail is. Each side has a different size. And then pull the spring back and let it go. This drives that part of the nail sticking out into the board. I stained the board a rich dark brown called Coffee using gel stain, and I've never used this brand of gel stain before and was very confused by how thick it was. I know gel stain is thicker, but other ones that I've used are still kind of liquidy. I actually ended up returning this, and I bought a second can thinking that it had gone bad, but no, that's just how thick this brand is. But I sealed the board with 3 coats of satin polyacrylic, and I let that cure for a week before installing the shelf. To make it look like a floating shelf, I installed 1x2 boards along the back and side wall that the shelf will sit on top of. I'm a little bit disappointed on where the shelf is sitting. There isn't much room to put anything on it at all, but I didn't want to block where the water lines are, and I had to set the shelf above that alcove, but I wish it was sitting right above the washer and dryer. Finally, after 4 long months for me, but only about 15 minutes for you guys, let's take a look at the finished space. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.